The most valuable luxury brand in the world, Louis Vuitton, is worth about $300 billion. Did you know that? Its beginnings can be traced to a homeless adolescent who could only dream of prosperity in the 19th century. He performed odd jobs with artists and craftsmen to survive, since he had no food or money. He barely made any money, but he learned useful skills that helped him invent modern luggage and build a billion-dollar enterprise. Louis Vuitton was born and raised in Angers, France, in the 19th century. His parents were farmers and hat makers. France was still recuperating from the Napoleonic Wars at the time, and many farmers, including the Vuittons, were in financial trouble. Louis was compelled to work on the family farm from a young age. He reared the animals, gathered firewood, and sowed and harvested crops from dusk until daylight. Louis's life got worse when he turned 10 years old. His father remarried shortly after his mother passed away, but his stepmother was not that kind of mother he needs. Louis eventually had enough of her unpleasant presence in his life. When Louis reached the age of 13, he discreetly fled the farm and made his way to Paris without any food or money. Thankfully, Louis was able to secure odd jobs with artisans and craftspeople who showed him how to work with metal, stone, textiles, and wood. Even so, he ran out of money and had to live on the streets. He frequently dozed off in the woods with nothing but a cloak as insulation. The first train route to Paris had just begun service at the time. Access to travel increased and the sector began to flourish. Because of this, artisans profited by creating unique boxes for nobility. They required crates that could fit and last lengthy journeys because they frequently traveled with paintings, musical instruments, and furniture. In order to prevent their possessions from shattering, they also needed assistance, packing them in a specific manner. Louis decided to attempt and get job in the trade because he had picked up some of the necessary abilities while traveling to Paris. Fortunately, Louis was taken on as an apprentice by a craftsman by the name of Monsieur Marchal. Louis didn't make much money, but his willingness to study paid off in a variety of ways. He won the favor of Marchal's patrons. Later, the Empress of France hired him to create boxes for her. Louis launched his first shop after working for the Empress for a year and became increasingly in demand. Louis developed new product concepts early on that altered the industry norm. Traditional boxes of the time were rectangular and made of leather. The dome-shaped lids prevented water from penetrating the leather by allowing it to run off the top. Boxes became difficult to stack and time-consuming to load as a result. Louis worked with many materials before settling on canvas to address these issues. Canvas was more water-resistant, sturdier, and lighter than leather. This made it possible for boxes to have straightforward flat lids, which made them easy to stack and load. Additionally, even though waterproofing agents turned the color gray, it had a cleaner, more contemporary appearance. Louis made a slat trunk out of canvas cloth. His new item was the first piece of contemporary luggage. Although consumers were dubious about its benefits at first, it quickly gained popularity and established itself as a chic, must-have accessory. Later, Louis set out to accomplish the same feat using a brand new creation: handbags. At the time, society did not accept purses. They were criticized for being ungainly, bulky, and dangerous for ladies by many individuals. Nevertheless, Louis began producing canvas handbags because he thought they had potential. They quickly became popular, creating a need for multiple styles so that ladies could match them with various outfits. Eventually, Louis was unable to keep up and turned to his son George for assistance. Like his father, George developed fresh concepts that altered the industrial norm. He invented a tumbler lock to deter theft and transform trunks into treasure chests. Before it, the majority of trunks featured simple-to-pick locks. The family goods gained even more popularity. But soon after, the flow of work stopped. The company was devastated by a battle which left Louis homeless once more. Louis's business was booming until the Franco-Prussian War broke out. In order to get to the city, Louis and his family were compelled to leave their assignats outside of Paris, house and workshop. They shared a small shelter with thousands of other refugees there. The Vuittons became dangerously close to becoming hungry since food was so limited. Louis went back to his house after the war. His workshop had been damaged and his materials had been stolen. Louis didn't spend any time in repairing his workshop and locating a new shop location using the remaining funds in his savings. Fortunately for him, the conflict caused a decline in real estate values. Louis seized the chance and bought a store in a high-end neighborhood. After reopening, business quickly picked up again, and orders started to come in from all over the world. Louis was now compelled to try out fresh, audacious concepts. Technology at the time allowed for the printing of unique designs on fabrics. Louis was able to make a range of trunks decorated in stripes since canvas is a cloth. The new design gained popularity right away. It provided people with a means to stand out and exhibit their modernity. Additionally, it made it harder for imitators to replace Louis' creations. After that, Louis received so many orders from abroad that he decided to create a store in London. His clientele diversified as a result of the expansion to include more adventurers and royals. Louis gained notoriety as the one designer whose goods could be found in both luxurious mansions and far-off rainforests from that point on. Louis eventually made the decision to publish his first catalog in order to facilitate ordering. It was a sensible decision that would undoubtedly help the company grow. However, during that same year, a shocking catastrophe derailed Louis' plans. Louis suddenly passed away in his home at the age of 72. His cause of death is still a mystery. George was now responsible for carrying out his father's unfinished ambitions. George made haste to expand the company and visit the World Fair in the United States. He realized after the encounter that he required a global sales network, and unfortunately for him, he ran upon John Wanamaker at the fair, who could offer assistance. John was a forerunner in the development of the department store and the price tag. He began promoting LV at his New York department store after meeting George. It became the first to carry the brand in the United States. George then designed a monogram in honor of his father that features an interlocking L and V in a floral motif. When customers noticed the monogram on merchandise, they were astonished. They were accustomed to solely personalizing their bags with their own names or initials. However, as time went on, the new style became popular. After that, George and his son Gaston carried on Louis' legacy by developing new designs. The Keepall, the No, and the Alma, a remake of a Coco Chanel order, are notable designs. The Keepall is a bag for everyday usage. By that time, George had completed a nationwide tour and established a network of distributors. He was destined to expand the company to new heights, just like his father. But regrettably, history kept repeating itself. He passed away, leaving Gaston on his own to carry out Louis' unfinished business. Gaston's luck was not good right away. Contracts were terminated as a result of the outbreak of World War II. The plants and stores of LB had to be shut down by Gaston. According to the author of Louis Vuitton, a French saga, Gaston grew so anxious to survive that he worked with the ruling party in Germany. It is said that Gaston authorized the creation of memorial busts and opened a store in Vichy. The article further asserts that LV was the only store permitted to remain open while others like Van Cleef and Arpels were shuttered. Later, a representative for Louis Vuitton said, "This is ancient history. We are tolerant, diversified, and everything else a contemporary business ought to be." Gaston gave the job of re-establishing the business to his sons, Henry, Jacques, and Claude, after the war. The sons made sure that new styles of baggage were produced every single year under their father's direction. But following Gaston's death, business slowed down. Hard-sided luggage lost some of its appeal. The management of the business separated Henry, Jacques, and Claude, so they requested Henry Racamire, the husband of their sister, to take charge. By that time, Henry had established and profitably sold the steel trading business. He converted LV from wholesale to retail and exploited the Asian market, since he had a good business sense. Sales of LV rose from $20 million to over $260 million in just 6 years. Around that time, Henry made LV public. More than 1 million shares of the company's equity were sold out. LV's stock price started to vary 2 months later. Analysts issued a warning that because of the surge in fake goods, sales would decline. Henry continued to open businesses all around the world despite this. In a matter of years, he disproved the analysts. After over $1 billion in sales, LV joined with champagne and cognac maker Moet Hennessy to create the luxury product giant LVMH. Both businesses wanted to avoid the possibility of an outside acquisition. While the acquisition allowed LV to increase its investment portfolio, Henry soon found himself in conflict with Moet's president, Hennessy's Alain Chevalier, over management decisions. Henry invited Bernard Arnault, a real estate developer, to be his ally in an effort to take control. Bernard consented, but Henry quickly discovered that Bernard had other goals. Bernard obtained backing from the Moet and Hennessy families in order to covertly acquire a controlling stake in LVMH for himself. After that, Henry and Bernard got into a court dispute. Henry was forced to resign by the judges who preferred Bernard. From that point on, LV lagged behind other luxury brands. Sales fell dramatically because it was a smaller company. No journalist dared to praise the company in any way. Things didn't start to change until LV, under the direction of Yves Carcel, followed Louis' lead and came up with a fresh, audacious notion. For its 100th anniversary, the business asked designers including Vivienne Westwood, Isaac Mizrahi, and Manolo Blahnik to produce handbags with its emblem. Such partnerships were virtually unheard of at the time, and luxury purses were non-existent. However, the partnership was enthusiastically received and brought LV and handbags back into the spotlight. A designer called Marc Jacobs was appointed by LV to serve as its creative director a year later, by introducing the company's first ready-to-wear line, creating the well-liked Venice collection, and working with prominent artists starting with Stephen Sprouse and Takashi Murakami. Marc reinvigorated the business. Since then, LV has continued to introduce famous bags while also branching out into watches, jewelry, and sunglasses. Additionally, the business keeps producing everything internally. 2 years are required for the training of craftsmen, and some components require 300 stages to assemble. LV is currently the most valuable luxury brand in the world, valued at over $30 billion. This is the tale of how a young man who was homeless invented modern luggage and built a multi-billion-dollar business. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more motivational tales and suggestions from the world's most successful leaders.